Hey everybody, welcome to the Darn Podcast. I'm Regis, your host, and today I have special guests, which are Nick,
Hey, yo, what's up?
Hawad,
What's going on, guys?
and Daniel.
Hello, hello.
Today, the topic is special. We're going to talk about the Grasshoppers. The Grasshoppers, if you guys are familiar with the show called The Kitchen Nightmares, which is hosted by, I forgot his name.
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay, yeah, everybody's familiar with Gordon Ramsay, I see. But other people hate him. I don't know why. Do you know why?
He's kind of mad at people.
Yeah. So today's topic is the issues at the Grasshoppers. So if you've watched the show, or if you haven't, I highly suggest you do it. There's a lot of issues going on in that company. But before we go into that, let's talk about you guys' expertise. What are you guys experts of?
So I'm Nick. I've had a lot of experience in the kitchen. I know how it's run and everything like that.
All right, that's fine. What are you?
As
What?
you mentioned, I'm Awad, and I've had multiple experience with just leadership positions and things like that.
Okay. What about you, Daniel?
And I'm Daniel. I have experience with customer service. I've worked many customer service positions before, and also leading the customer service teams as well.
Oh, that's cool. And I'm going to say thanks to the production because that was a good thing to pick you guys up because you guys field are related to the problems inside the company. But let's talk about those issues. Let's talk about the characters inside this company, which are
So we got four characters that we're going to talk about today.
okay.
There are Chief, who is the founder and like the father of Maureen,
Okay.
and then Maureen is a co-owner. She handles all the books and all the sales, product management, all of that stuff.
Okay.
And then we got Mitch, who is Maureen's husband. So
Oh, wow.
Chief's son-in-law. He is
Oh, wow.
another co-owner, and he is the kitchen manager.
Okay.
And then we got Mario, who is the lead chef in the kitchen.
Okay. So we have pretty much kind of a family going on right
Family
here.
feud going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the thing that makes it so hard for them because they're related.
Exactly.
Or not. You guys are the expert. You tell me. Okay. Let's talk about first you guys' analysis on this company. What was the problem? What was the problem, first of all, created by communication errors? And also, what are the problems exacerbated by those communication errors? And finally, you guys are going to give us the solutions to those problems, how they can solve it. First of all, let's talk about the problems created by the communication errors. What is the main issue over there?
So there's a lot of disorganization
Okay.
between, all the moving parts that like all the leadership positions and then like
Okay.
just the kitchen and the front of the house itself. There's a lot of disorganization.
Okay, so but let's break it down first. Let's break it down between, I'd say, Mitch and Chief. What is the issue between those two guys?
Well, the issue I saw in the video is Chief is, as we said before, Chief is the bigger guy who started the place, who's the founder, and Mitch is the son-in-law, also the commander, or the person who's running it right now.
Yeah.
And the problem there is that Chief is trying to command, or Chief is trying to run Mitch, and always creating problems with Mitch,
Yeah.
telling Mitch that he's not doing things right, and always just making a bad environment, creating a bad environment, which affects what's her name?
Maureen.
Yes.
I like that term that they use, command, because it's not really the appropriate word for them, right? So what would you say is the actual issue here between Mitch and Chief?
I'd say it's upward and downward communication, to be honest.
Okay.
And more specifically, Mitch to Chief, which is an upward communication.
Yeah.
Chief to Mitch, which is a downward communication.
Okay.
And as Dan mentioned, this does actually cause an issue with Maureen. Now, because of this, Maureen is kind of being forced to act as like a peacekeeper, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Now, because of her getting in the middle of everything, it's diminishing her role as well. And we've
Okay.
all known this. I mean, we've all had that one group of friends where there's one friend who's fighting with another. They keep going at it. They're going at it, and you're
Yeah.
right in the middle. You're just kind of trying to resolve the conflict a bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
100% you hate your role throughout that as well.
Yeah.
Similarly, Maureen in this situation, which is her father and her husband.
Yeah.
Think about how much she
So
hates
it's kind
her
of a,
life.
it's kind of a tricky situation. Sorry.
100%.
Because of that particular. That's why I was bringing that up in the beginning because of the family, right? And you brought the upward and downward communication issue, and you also brought up the conflict management. So there's also an issue with conflict management. But there's also a fourth character that we talked about, or you mentioned at the beginning, which is the chef.
Mario, he is the lead chef in the kitchen.
What's wrong with Mario?
Well, he doesn't have any information as to how he's supposed to run things.
Okay.
Mitch has never downward communicated with Mario, as we've said earlier. You know, the upward and downward communication is in multiple aspects of this place. So, you know, Mario and Mitch don't communicate. Mario and Chief don't communicate.
Yeah.
And so there's
It's
a lot
kind
of
a mess.
There's a lot of like confusion as to how the kitchen is supposed to run and what's the responsibilities of Mario.
Yeah, and that's great that you brought that up, confusion, because this is also something that goes into the problems that are exacerbated by the communication errors, right?
Completely.
And this is our next topic and our next point, which is those problems. And how does the communication errors, we talked about upward and downward communication, we talked about conflict management, we talked about leadership. How does that affect the food quality?
Well, there's no real like feedback to Mario about, you know, the quality of the food that he's serving, how long it takes for the food to get out there.
Yeah.
And really just the storage in general. There was a part of this video where they open up the fridge.
Yeah.
And a lot of, you know, raw meats
the
and,
disgusting,
you know, ready to eat foods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They were all stored together, which is a major mishap in the kitchen. It creates cross-contamination, which can get people sick.
Health code violations.
Yeah.
Exactly. Health
Exactly.
code violations. Like,
Yeah.
there's no real leadership in the kitchen, as you mentioned, between Mitch talking to Mario about how he needs to store things.
Yeah.
And, you know, so
Pretty much
Mario,
everybody's clueless about it.
Mario's pretty much winging it in the kitchen, to be honest, because
Yeah.
he's like, there's no responsibility that's being put on him. There's no rules or regulations.
Yeah.
So he's just like, oh, I think this is how it's supposed to go. So he just kind of wings it in there.
Yeah, that's not really his fault, I would say. It's
But
a
let's
problem.
just take a moment to kind of stress how like bad of a situation the food quality is, because this is like borderline murder. Like
Yeah.
underprepared food, like stuff that's not being prepared correctly, this could kill someone.
Yeah,
Like that's
exactly.
really serious.
Completely. Like
Exactly.
it's probably the main problem that's being created by these communication errors.
Yeah, and I would say more. It's exacerbated by those communication errors, because it's all, like you said, it's all about the communication between Mitch and Chief, and it always go down to the other people, right?
Yeah. So but the reason, like with Chief and Mitch, you know, always at each other and, you know, always attacking each other, there's no real communication with anyone else.
Yeah.
It's just always about Mitch and Chief fighting.
Yeah.
There's nothing that helps the rest of the restaurant move forward.
Yeah, their relationship is kind of polluting everybody else. You would
Completely.
say.
Right.
Yeah, but now that we've talked about the problems, we talked about what is the issue. How would you solve it? What is your input? How would you make this better?
Well, I think Mitch, Chief, and Marine need to sit down on a table and talk about it. Since they're the upper management, they're the ones who make decisions. They need to come to a mutual agreement on what they all need to do.
Yeah.
They're a team. They're not against each other. They're not different businesses. They're just one team. And once they come to an agreement, once they
How
know
would you
that
come to an
they-
agreement? Actually, what tool would you?
I mean, they need to,
advise?
they need to divide their responsibilities. Chief can't be the only one to just watch around and making sure everyone's doing everything right. Mitch has to do that too. Mitch has to make sure that chefs are doing their job and doing things properly.
Absolutely.
Same with Marine. I guess Marine could be, since Marine has more. Since Marine is like on both sides, Mitch and Chief's
kind of
side,
the peacemaker.
kind of the peacemaker, so she can play her part there and sort of just break their if they ever fight again, then she can break them apart, but I hope they don't. They need to stop doing that. Yeah.
So what would you provide them with? How they would know what everybody's doing, everybody's job, everybody's position.
I'd say there needs to be an establishment of a formal network communication. That's definitely something that needs to take place.
Yeah. Okay.
Completely.
Definitely. We talk. Okay, that's fine. We talk. This is the formal communication network. So you provide that. I believe the production is gonna bring up you guys flowchart for that. There's also apart from the disorganization, this pretty a tongue twister. How would they better manage conflict. This is for
So
Marine.
better manage. They need
Yeah.
better leadership. That's exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah.
I'd say that through here, like from
Coming from the leadership guy, this is good.
I've managed like a few organizations and stuff, and from what I've seen, poor leadership is always like the downfall of every single like organization.
Yeah.
Because the leadership is basically the base. It's what supports everything.
Yeah.
However, it's kind of like you can imagine it like this. Leadership is very, very tricky. It's like a bunch of pebbles that are balanced on top of each other, and then there's a huge boulder on top of them, which is everything else that needs to be worried about. Now, all it takes is on the leadership side for one pebble to get knocked off,
Yeah.
and the entire thing will crumble.
Yeah.
So there definitely needs to be a better leadership standard.
Yeah.
Whereas with what it is with Chief needs to better himself and like kind of not arguing. Same thing with Mitch. They kind of need to just kind of like relax, as Dan mentioned before.
Yeah.
There needs to be a formal network communication that ties into it a bit.
Absolutely. So definitely a better leadership, and also a better way of managing, of handling conflict. And what is the main solution or the main tools that you could give them?
Well, I feel like with conflict management, especially in this particular situation, there are really two things that can better their conflict management. They need to collaborate with each other.
Okay.
Instead of, they're all up at each other. Like Chief is like, hey, Mitch, you need to make sure you're doing this. And Mitch is like, hey, Chief, you need to back off. Like, I got this. Instead of like going at each other, I think they need to collaborate more, work together to create a team effort on what the rules and regulations and standards really are for this restaurant.
Yeah.
And with that, it's also a bunch of compromises.
Yeah. So first of all, create a sort of a win-win situation between both parties.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, collaboration is all about the win-win. Compromise is more about, you win some and you lose some.
Okay.
You're going to lose some things that you want to be able to inherit and, put into this company. But in the end, you're going to win a lot more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it for kitchen terms. You got to break a few eggs to make an omelet.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a good way to kind of end our podcast, our show
And
already.
if I may add just one more thing before we end this
Yeah,
podcast.
absolutely. Go ahead.
There's actually one more thing we can do about this. They need to establish their authority. The top guys, the Mitch, Chief, and I'm calling them top guys. The top management, basically. They need to establish their authority. So when Mitch goes up to Mario knows that I have to listen to this guy, and Mario needs to know that this guy can fire me if I don't listen to him. Right now, what's happening is Mario just going. Mitch is going up to them and just acting like friends. Hey, Mitch, if you can make that or whatever.
Yeah.
Doing that, it's saying to a friend, talking to a friend, in a job situation, that's not good.
Yeah.
So they need to definitely establish an authority. I guess same with Chief and Mitch. When they're in a workspace, they need to forget anything that that happened before. Whether they anything personal, they have to forget personal things, and they have
like
to focus.
put aside
exactly
their personal beat. Yeah.
Yes, they have to focus on work. They need to focus on their roles, what they do, what they are.
All right. Yeah. That sounds about right. Right?
Yeah.
You just gave them tools. We talked about formal network communication that can come up with a better leadership and also a better conflict management, and those three things would probably solve the disorganization that we talked about in the beginning, but also the food quality. Ultimately, because if they are better organized and everybody knows what everybody has to do, obviously the quality of the food would end up being better, because if you're in a good environment, ultimately the food is going to be better. So more people are going to go over there, right?
Completely.
And probably we can have like a dinner if you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you guys for listening to us. That was our podcast over the Grasshopper. I hope you had a great time, and see you next time.
Thanks for inviting us.
Later, guys.
Have a good one.